$1,000 a month in Vietnam. You've probably heard it's possible. You may have even seen someone online say they're doing it comfortably. And that's exactly where the confusion starts. Because the answer isn't yes or no. It's 5 decisions. And honestly, most people only think about one of them before they book a flight. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what living in Vietnam on $1,000 a month actually looks like in 2026, which city makes it work, which costs quietly destroy the budget, and what that lifestyle genuinely includes and doesn't. Vietnam has been on the expat radar for years. Low cost of living, warm weather, fast internet, great food, all of that is real. But the gap between what people imagine before they arrive and what they actually spend in the first 3 months is wider than most expect. That gap comes from 5 specific areas, and we're going to go through each one. Here's what most cost of living videos get wrong. They answer the question as if Vietnam is one place. It isn't. Spending $1,000 a month in Ho Chi Minh City is a completely different experience from spending $1,000 a month in Da Nang, and both are different from Hanoi. The number is real, but what it buys depends entirely on where you are and how you live. That's not a vague non-answer. It's the most important thing to understand before anything else. The travelers who make $1,000 work long-term are not just lucky with prices. They made specific decisions early, about location, about habits, and about what they were willing to trade. The ones who burn through $2,000 and still feel like they're cutting corners usually made those same decisions without thinking about them. So before the budget breakdown, this is the framing $1,000 a month in Vietnam is achievable. But it requires clarity, not just optimism. Rent is the single variable that controls everything else. This is where, honestly, a lot of planning falls apart. Because, yeah, the $200 a month apartment exists, but it's not what most Western expats mean when they say they want a decent place to live. A $200 room in Vietnam is typically a small local guest house room, or a very basic studio in an outer district with no Western-style amenities, limited natural light, and shared infrastructure. A clean, modern one-bedroom apartment, you know, the kind with reliable hot water, a working AC unit, a Western toilet, and basic security, costs very different amounts depending on the city. In Ho Chi Minh City, specifically in the districts where most expats settle, a livable one-bedroom runs between $500 and $800 per month. In Hanoi's central areas, you should expect $400 to $650. In Da Nang, that same quality apartment sits between $300 and $500. Secondary cities like Hoi An and Nha Trang often come in lower, sometimes $250 to $400, but availability is more limited, and the expat infrastructure is thinner. So why does this matter so much? Because rent determines your remaining budget for everything else. If you're paying $600 in rent on a $1,000 budget, you have $400 left for food, transport, health, leisure, and emergencies. That is a very tight margin. If rent is $350, that same $650 remainder is genuinely comfortable. Your city and neighborhood choice is not just a lifestyle preference. It is a financial decision that locks in every other number. This is where Vietnam genuinely earns its reputation, and honestly, where most new arrivals quietly undo it. Street food in Vietnam is real, abundant, and remarkably cheap. A bowl of po costs between $1 and $2. A plate of com tam, broken rice with grilled pork, is around $150 to $250. A full banh mi from a street stall is under $1. Eating local, 3 meals a day, you can feed yourself well for $100 to $150 a month. That's not deprivation. That is some of the best food in Southeast Asia, at prices that are almost impossible to replicate elsewhere. The problem is what happens after the first few weeks. Most new expats start with street food. Then they find a Western cafe they like. Then a restaurant that reminds them of home. Then brunch on Sundays. Then the imported cheese at the expat supermarket. Each individual choice is reasonable. The combined result is a food budget that drifts from 150 to 400 without a single dramatic decision. Experienced expats living on 1,000 a month are not suffering through food they dislike. They've learned which local spots are genuinely excellent. They cook occasionally with local ingredients, and they treat Western food as an occasional thing rather than a default. That mental shift is worth more than any coupon or discount. Transport in Vietnam is cheap. The question is really which version of cheap you're choosing. Grab, Vietnam's dominant ride-hailing app, is widely available in every major city. A motorbike Grab ride across Da Nang costs $1 to $2. The same distance in a Grab car costs $3 to $5. That gap is small per ride, but over a month of daily use, it starts to matter. Many long-term expats buy a used motorbike within the first few months. A reliable used Honda Wave or similar entry-level bike costs $400 to $700. Petrol costs almost nothing, $5 to $8 for a full tank that lasts weeks with normal city use. Maintenance is cheap and mechanics are everywhere. But owning a motorbike in Vietnam comes with its own set of considerations. Registration for foreigners involves navigating local paperwork and sometimes requires help from a Vietnamese contact. Insurance is inexpensive but essential, and motorbike accidents are not rare. Vietnam's traffic is genuinely chaotic, especially in Ho Chi Minh City. On a $1,000 budget, most people settle into a monthly transport cost of $30 to $80 depending on city size and their motorbike situation. It's one of the more manageable line items, as long as you make a clear choice and stick to it. This is the cost almost nobody puts in their initial budget, and it can quietly add $800 to $1,500 a year to what living in Vietnam actually costs. As of 2026, Vietnam does not have a retirement visa or a formal digital nomad visa. The primary option for most Western travelers is the e-visa. It's $25, valid for 90 days, and it now allows a single stay of up to 90 days. That's clean and simple for a short trip. For someone trying to live in Vietnam long-term, though, it creates a recurring problem. After 90 days, you need to either leave the country or apply for an extension through a local immigration agent, which typically costs $50 to $150 in service fees, and yeah, it's not always guaranteed. Many long-term expats do a quarterly border run to Thailand, Cambodia, or Laos and re-enter on a fresh e-visa. A budget flight to Bangkok and back, with 1 or 2 nights of accommodation, easily runs $300 to $400 per trip. 4 times a year, that's $1,200 to $1,600 in travel costs that exist purely to maintain legal status. There is a business visa path that some expats use, and Vietnam has introduced a 5-year talent visa for certain professionals. But the eligibility requirements are strict, and most expats on a typical remote work or retirement budget won't qualify easily. The visa math is not a small detail. On a $1,000 monthly budget, visa maintenance costs represent one of the largest single annual expenses. Anyone serious about living in Vietnam long-term needs to calculate this before arrival, not after. Beyond rent, food, transport, and visa, there are 4 costs that consistently catch new arrivals off guard. The first is electricity. Vietnam's electricity billing is progressive. The more you use, the higher the rate per unit. In a tropical country where air conditioning is not optional for most Western expats, monthly electricity bills can spike to $60 to $120 during hot months. So, budget $50 a month minimum and adjust upward if you run AC heavily. The second is the arrival cost. Moving to Vietnam is not free up front. Most landlords require 2 months deposit plus the first month's rent. Add to that a SIM card, basic household supplies, local furniture or decor, initial food stock, and any setup admin costs, and arriving comfortably typically requires $1,500 to $2,500 in liquid funds before your $1,000 monthly budget even starts. The third is lifestyle creep. This is the most underestimated force in expat finances. Vietnam is full of things that are individually cheap but collectively significant. Weekend trips to nearby provinces, spa treatments that cost $15, craft beer bars, co-working space memberships, language classes. Expats who budgeted $1,200 a month and found themselves spending $2,500 after a year rarely made one large decision. They made dozens of small ones. The fourth is communication and digital costs. A local SIM with solid data is cheap, around $10 to $15 a month. But a VPN subscription for accessing geo-restricted services, streaming platform subscriptions, and international transfer fees from services like Wise or Revolut add up quietly. So budget $30 to $50 a month for this category, and it won't surprise you. Routine healthcare in Vietnam is genuinely affordable. A visit to a reputable private clinic runs about $20 to $60. Dental work, even complex procedures, costs just a fraction of what it does back in the US or Europe. Pharmacies are everywhere, medications are accessible, and honestly, for minor illnesses, Vietnam handles it well and cheaply. The risk isn't in the routine stuff. The real risk is the unexpected. A serious motorbike accident, a surgical procedure, or a significant illness at an international standard hospital in Vietnam can cost $10,000 to $50,000 without insurance. That number isn't an exaggeration. It's the reality that Vietnam's best hospitals, like FV Hospital in Ho Chi Minh City or Vinmec in Hanoi, operate at near international pricing for complex care. For someone living on $1,000 a month, an uninsured medical emergency isn't just a setback. It's a financial crisis. International health insurance for Southeast Asia typically costs around $800 to $1,500 a year for a healthy adult under 50. That's about $70 to $125 per month. On a tight budget, that definitely feels like a significant expense. But in the context of real risk, it's the one-line item you just can't afford to skip. With all of that on the table, here is, an honest city-by-city verdict. Da Nang is the most achievable on $1,000 a month. Rents are lower than the two major cities. The beach is accessible. The expat community is established enough that services and English language support exist, and the pace of life actually reduces the temptation toward frequent spending. This is where the $1,000 budget works with the least stress. Hanoi is possible with discipline. It's a cheaper city in a lot of ways than Ho Chi Minh City, but rent in the central areas that most expats want, Tai Ho, Hoan Kiem, isn't dramatically different from Da Nang. The city has a distinct, slower character that some expats find really conducive to frugal living. Others find the winters cold and end up compensating in other ways. Ho Chi Minh City is the hardest on a $1,000 budget, not impossible, but tight in any neighborhood where expats typically want to live. Rent alone in districts 1, 2, or 3 can consume 60 to 70% of the budget. If you're committed to HCMC and committed to $1,000, you should expect to live in an outer district and commute. Secondary cities like Hoi An and Ha Trang are really underrated options. Lower rents, slower pace, and genuine quality of life. The trade-off is thinner infrastructure, fewer international clinics, less variety in services, and sometimes slower internet outside of developed areas. So, here's the honest answer to the question this video started with. Yes, living in Vietnam on $1,000 a month in 2026 is possible. In Da Nang or a secondary city, with a disciplined approach to rent and food, a local-first lifestyle and healthcare covered, $1,000 supports a genuinely decent life. Not a luxury life, not a life of frequent travel and Western restaurants, but a clean apartment, good food, reliable transport, and time, which honestly is what most people are actually looking for. In Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi's expat-adjacent areas, $1,000 is survivable but uncomfortable without careful management. Most expats in those cities find that $1,400 to $1,800 a month is where the experience starts to feel sustainable, without constant calculation. The $1,000 question is really 5 smaller questions. Which city? What kind of rent? What food habits? What visa strategy? And is healthcare covered? Answer those 5 honestly before you arrive, and the budget becomes a plan. Leave them open, and $1,000 becomes a number that disappears faster than you'd expect, with no clear reason why. If you're seriously considering living in Vietnam, the practical side of making it work is something this channel covers in detail. From visa options to neighborhood guides, to what experienced expats wish they'd known earlier. A little clarity before you arrive is worth more than a lot of problem solving after. Vietnam is cheap, but living here still requires a plan.